Today I'm regaled with the sickly sweet smell of corn syrup. I'm about 25 miles south of Rochester, and it was a 5-hour and 11-minute drive. Well, not quite that. Actually, that's how much time I have to get back. So you have 11 hours of drive time on a 14-hour shift, and so I have about an hour more shift than I do drive time. So there's a good chance I'll get back. You can see the guy is checking my load. I was just about full. I was 1,200 gallons short of a Happy Meal, and now I should be about up. I don't know what I'm going to talk about, if anything, but it's a beautiful day, and it's a beautiful drive up Highway 15. The lid is still open, so I'm assuming we're still not quite ready to go. Oh, look at the steam coming out. I know I'd get in trouble if I climbed up there closer to show you, but there's steam coming out. Found out it's 140 degrees. That'd be a pretty hot bath, 140 degrees. I assume that so it won't be tampered with, because it is food, I guess, apparently. I didn't think of anything to say, I just wanted to show you this valley. Also demonstrate how beautiful Pennsylvania's roads are, or New York's roads are compared to Pennsylvania. That's New York, and now we just crossed into Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's roads are not what most truckers would say are good, but still. I noticed that going the other direction too. Going along pretty smoothly, and then but the main reason I wanted to turn on the camera was to show you that valley. I was in the Finger Lakes area today. This is part of the Tioga River Valley, and we're about to cross. We've been crossing and recrossing the river, and we're about to cross it again. Really nice up here. It's nice all the way down. I've seen the lower part of it, but it's really beautiful up here. Here's the bridge over it. I don't think you'll be able to see the river, but you'll see where it is. In the borough of Blossburg. Blossburg Borough. Wonder what it would be like to grow up in Blossburg. Have you ever noticed partnerships where after a while, after a certain amount of time has passed, sometime after the honeymoon period, both partners tend to sabotage each other in terms of, like, maybe, just for example, weight gain. Like, as one wants to get comfortable and maybe not expend so much energy in the courtship process, that one might sabotage the other one in terms of weight gain, depending on who's in charge of meals, or just encouraging. There are all sorts of subtle and not so subtle ways to help your partner get girthier. That's just one example, but another is just as insidious or worse, is when you take little torpedo shots at your partner's self-esteem. Just little criticisms here and there, little questionings, like about what they're wearing or other choices they make. Just little, and sometimes the person making the attacks isn't consciously aware of them, and certainly not the reason why. But what it comes down to is not wanting the other person to get ahead, not wanting the other person to excel. And then you have a race, kind of, or a contest. I've referred to it sometimes as a ping pong match, where it's supposed to ideally sharpen the other person so that they'll be more on their game. But unfortunately, sometimes in contests, instead of running faster, people put their elbows out and slow the other person down. And that isn't healthy, obviously. And so that, you see that happening, and you think, okay, it's either lazy or insecure. It's usually both. Lazy combined with insecure will cause partners to sabotage each other. Now, in an open relationship, it's interesting because not only does one partner get affirmation from the other partner, but also can get affirmation from people and other connections romantically. So it's interesting if it has become a contest that one partner might, on one hand, encourage people who aren't her partner in a romantic way, while at the same time not putting out much effort to affirm the partner. So if you've got a person who's really excited about the new energy and new conquests and new dating situations and new partnerships too, while at the same time not being as excited romantically about the primary partner, you've got somebody trying to run fast and hold their elbows out. And I'd warn people who are interested in polyamory or open relationships generally that you'll do more harm than good for your relationship if you do it that way. If you're not as energetic and consciously affirming as time goes on as you were in the beginning, you're going to torpedo your relationship. Anything you do that, whether consciously or unconsciously, brings down the other person's self-esteem is a mistake. Because ideally, when one person wins, the other person wins. And the rising tide lifts both boats, or all the boats, if you have a triad or a quad, or just a circle of friends even, whether they're intimate romantically or not. Anything you do that brings another person down is going to end up hurting you too. It's karmically a bad idea. Okay, I'm still thinking. A dangerous pastime, I know. Why might a partner feel like sabotaging the other partner, whether consciously or subconsciously? One idea, one possibility, is that they feel that the partner is already getting too much attention from other people in an open relationship, and feels like maybe they're not relevant anymore. Like if that person gets any more attention than they're already getting, it'll be too late, be out of control, and that person will not want them anymore. It could be a fear response. Say one person does manage to get a little bit of steam up, a little bit of mojo, lose a little weight, or work out, or get a new wardrobe, or any new job, new confidence for whatever reason, and other people start to notice, and the other partner might feel like they're not keeping up as well, or might feel like they are, but it's still disconcerting, it's still nerve-wracking that their partner is doing so well in terms of mojo. And I can see why maybe you would maybe I don't know, this is maybe putting it too strongly, but knock a few holes in the other person's boat so they're not riding quite so high in the water that they have to spend more time bailing out their boat and less time speeding off in a direction that you can't go, or at a speed at which you can't keep up. I can understand why it makes sense. I can see the motivation. I don't see it as a healthy thing. If you're still engaged in the train of thought, you might next ask, what should you do about it? If there's this kind of sabotage, if it's you doing the sabotaging, then clearly you need to build yourself up and stop feeling the need to sabotage someone else. If it's the other person or people, you need to think about the fact, I think you need to think about the fact that this is kind of new culturally, the idea of being open. And self-esteem isn't necessarily a given through this process. It's building. You're trying to build it up. But there will be times when it's severely challenged. If you understand what's happening, it'll be easier not to get your nose bent out of shape. If you can understand why the other person may be probably subconsciously resorting to sabotaging you, you might think to yourself, well, I understand why, and I don't have to take up the slack. I can be very affirming and very supportive of my partners, but it isn't necessarily my job to prop them up so that they can prop me up. If it becomes chronic, if your partner, if your person can't swim in those waters, they can't thrive in that situation, the weight, the burden becomes too much, if they can't keep affirming themselves enough to keep affirming the people around them, they might wonder to themselves if that lifestyle is really good for them, if it's really what they ought to be doing. They also might think about self-therapy and other kinds of therapy, trying to figure out how to get their own boat seaworthy, try to get some power to it so that they're not a drag on other people. Ideally, everybody is buoyant and everyone is under their own power and moving along beautifully in the same direction. Probably the most help this idea is going to be to anyone is to someone who sees himself sabotaging someone else and figuring out how to not do that anymore. It's hard to tell someone else, and probably the best thing you can do for someone who's resorting to that is encourage them, not nag them, help them feel good about themselves, but without propping them up. And if it comes to it, probably to avoid codependency, you probably have to part ways as friends, hopefully. But someone who will chronically revert to that kind of toxic behavior is a drag on your life, on your energy, is somebody who is not helping you reach your goals and dreams. And it's probably somebody eventually that you would decide to cut out of your life. No matter how much you want them to succeed, codependency isn't the best way to live. So today's topic is kind of confusing and maybe disturbing, but maybe it will be less disturbing if we think about it this way. Throughout the species history, through millions of years, males and females have toggled what's best for themselves as individuals with what's best for the partnership and for the family. So in this day and age, I think we have to understand that being selfish isn't necessarily wrong. We've always been taught that being selfish is wrong, but it isn't necessarily. It can be. And if we can toggle taking care of our own needs, putting our oxygen mask on first, that's my boss right there. I'm glad I didn't run him over. If we can toggle our own needs, putting our own oxygen mask on first, with taking care of our partner or our partners or our children or our friends, we can be selfless and selfish, even though those words are really messed up in how they've been used over the years. But it isn't so disturbing, what I was saying earlier, if you understand that both partners, both primary partners, need to do both things. They need to watch out for their own needs. And I don't agree that we should sabotage each other, but I do understand why, especially in a ping pong game, it feels weird to hit the ball from both sides of the table. And sometimes you put a little spin on it, and sometimes you even slam it, and it's all part of the game. And I think that, for me anyway, I'm always talking to myself mostly because I don't get a lot of views on my channel. As I watch again, and I like to watch them again, and it helps me keep clear. If I watch this one again, I'll remind myself not to have my feelings hurt if I get a little spin or a little slam, or what I would perceive as selfishness from the other person. But I still have to always, all of us have to always pay attention to when it's toxic, when it's not going to be sustainable, and that means it's not going to be healthy over the long haul. And it's not a clear-cut, just black and white, open and shut. It's not easy to keep that straight. Nobody is without some toxicity, but nobody should excuse toxicity within themselves, and nobody should accept it on an ongoing basis from people they have in their lives. Do no harm, take no shit. I wish it was less complicated.